good evening to everyone, and especially our guest, Mike. Looking forward to our final session. It's not quite the same without Leah, but let's show her we can work just as well without her. So looking forward to another productive session. And the exciting news is that we have 110 presidents and secretaries booked for Grenada. So that means we'll be seeing most of you. I recognize attendance is not exciting this afternoon, but I think we can understand that there's some very good reasons why that might be happening. So back over to you, Colbert, as depending on whether you're French this afternoon. Back over to you, Colbert, and let's get the session going.
Thank you, DG Brian. It's actually an S, so it's Cosbert, but you know, I'll be whatever you want me to be this evening. So I'll be French.
Sorry, I'm very short-sighted. I thought it was an L, but Cosbert works very well for me.
Yes. No problem. Okay, everyone. So as usual, we'll prepare for our photo session right now. AB, and
yes,
this
thanks, Cossy. This is the first of the photo sessions that's going to be completed this afternoon, and this is the start of the session. So everyone should be at their freshest in terms of your pictures. By the time we get around to the third one, we will see some tiredness, but nevertheless, let's make this first one your best shot for this afternoon. So our roving photographer, Everestus, and Alvina, I think they're in the back. Oh, Everestus is here. So she'll be able to get your best smile on. So a few seconds, put on your best smile and let's go. Everestus.
Yeah, let me jump in. Maybe I might need your assistance because I'm still on my phone trying to log in from the PC. Is given trouble.
Okay. Is Alvina on?
And I'll just take over for the last two.
Okay. So let me see if I can fill in and get some of these shots on. All right. So here we go. All right. So let's see. All right, that's the first group. And here we go. Nice, lovely smiles. Second group. Right, wonderful. So we all set. So the next segment of our program this afternoon, it's a follow-on from Tuesday's session. And Tuesday's session, I mean, lots of information was shared with us. I thought the panel was fantastic. DG Brian, Zone Chair Mike, PDG Lyle, and even all the other PDGs and everyone who would have contributed to making the discussion lively and I would say very, very informative. So we have some questions that's going to kick things off. We have a few questions that was posted on the last session which we can kick things off. But I would also want to say that it's really a wonderful opportunity at this session and this particular aspect of the session where you have the mic or you have access to the mic to ask whatever questions that you think it's pertinent to your club or even pertinent to you as president or secretary-elect coming in for this year regarding membership. Lots of information was shared. So let's start let's kickstart things. We have DG Brian, Zone Chair Mike, and DG Lyle. So the first question here from Tuesday goes like this: how can clubs deal with classism in considering prospective members? Should clubs seek to reduce fees towards being more inclusive? So any member of the panel, I think, can take those. So each member of the panel, I think you can, have your say on this question. Did you like, maybe you can kick things off.
Okay, all right. I was waiting for my boss, Mike. But I can kick it off. In terms of should you reduce your fees, there's a minimum to which you can reduce fees, right? Unless you have a scheme which is going to help people out. And I don't think that most clubs can reduce their fees in our district below, well, in Eastern Caribbean dollars, about $350 for the year. Now that is really, really low compared to other districts. But we are aware that there are a lot of young people coming through. If a club has a fee structure of perhaps $500 or $600 or more, then they could well consider reducing for call it a young professional fee. So something to attract the Rotary actors who are transitioning into the Rotary. But that'll give them a little chance to catch their feet. So that would be, I think, Mike, you might want to chip in on that.
So Lyle, the reason I stay quiet when you're in the room is oftentimes I learn something by staying quiet. So I will give my perspective on it. One of the most important things that I've found about clubs is being sustainable. Oftentimes it is suggested that clubs cut their fees for a variety of things, but if you cut your fees to the point where you can't sustain yourself, then you have not done yourself a service. I've always tried to go into any project thinking, are we set up for massive success? And if we cut fees for one group of people, and let's say it's young professionals, and they come in and eat a very expensive lunch that they're not helping to pay for, that's probably not a good way to run things. But the challenge is, how do we incorporate these folks? And I'll give you two ways that we found clubs have done this. One is that they do set up some sort of special situation. And we found in my club, a satellite club allowed us to do that. It allowed us to have a much lower cost operation instead of our lunch, which has gotten very expensive for the main club. It set up a bar situation at nights, which real frankly was very attractive to members of my club. Even after we paid lunch, a couple of nights later, we would go to the bar and hang out with people that were a lot more fun than my normal lunch crowd. So that was a real good way to do it in a very sustainable way. The other thing that we've done, and this is getting on sustainability again, was to set up another club. We just spun off a club off of my club that is our first really, really urban oriented in one of the toughest areas of town. And they wanted to go out there and work on the school that's out there, the elementary school. They wanted their own club. So we did everything to support them. It was sad to me because we lost some of our most, in my mind, interesting folks because they were from that area and they brought that perspective. But when I look at it, they attracted 23 other Rotarians who are focused on that school and are going to do a better job than we could do. We're still working with them, but the new club just seemed like the better solution. I will add one last thing. When you're talking about classism, I agree, there is a problem the way that people perceive your club. If your club is very uninclusive or it's not inclusive, that is a problem you need to solve. I'm not throwing out the satellite and the new club idea to avoid addressing inclusiveness, but I am realizing that oftentimes costs get in the way of some of the things we want to do. That's why I really look forward to hearing what other people say in your community works.
Okay, if I may come in now,
Sure.
and I'd like to give personal experience. My club is the Rotary Club of St. Vincent. Now, for those of you who know St. Vincent, know, well, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, no, it's not just one island, it's 32 islands. And we have a very active Rotary family in one of the Grenadine Islands, which is called Bequia. The challenge with Bequia is that the economy is based on tourism. So they make money for 4 months of the year, and for the rest of the year, it's very difficult for most people who live there. So we set up a satellite club in Bequia with a different level of fees. Their fees are lower than the fees that are applied in the St. Vincent Club. And that is very consistent with the suggestion and the solution that Mike referred to a moment ago. Now, the question specifically related to classism, and even the word itself is something that in a Rotary context, even in a generally social context, can be a sensitive word. So as Rotarians, we have to be very careful how we address social and sensitive situations. In our club, we've identified a young person who has a physical disability, who we think would make an excellent Rotarian. And the suggestion is that we bring him into the club. I accidentally said him, but I was trying to avoid using him, but it is a him. We bring him into the club, and rather than charge that person a lower level of fees or dues, existing members contribute to paying his dues. Now that can work in this situation because the target Rotarian understands the situation and has agreed to it. However, it's not a solution that might work in all situations, because some people might feel offended by the suggestion that other people have to contribute to their membership in a club. So it's a situation that, in my view, has to be addressed on an individual basis. You look at every circumstance. You can't come up with a solution that suits every single club or every single situation. You have to look at every circumstance as a specific circumstance. And classism is certainly something, as Rotarians, we need to avoid, because the very term is something that is contrary to the concept of inclusion and contrary to the very concept of Rotary. But I acknowledge that it is a reality, and in moving Rotary forward, these are the sort of circumstances that we will encounter. But let us not try to get a solution that fits every situation. Let us examine every single situation, analyze it before we attempt to come up with a solution. So back over to you.
Wonderful. I think excellent responses showing that, and I like the idea that, one solution doesn't fit all. Therefore, each club needs to look at itself, its profile, its history, its members, and decide, what's going to be, maybe the preferred solution or way to go with the club. Another interesting question that was posed on Tuesday, and I'll read here, how should a club president deal with a situation where someone of a different sexual persuasion wants to join the club, but other members object? Keeping in mind that the person is adding value to the club. Very interesting question. So maybe we can follow the circle, PDG Lyle.
Give me the hot topic first. I thought you would have gone in reverse. Look, we stand for inclusion in Rotary, and the president can only do their best to persuade their members that they need to be inclusive. Sometimes that person may just need to go to another club if your club is of such a state where, your members aren't going to accept it. It would be horrible for us to say that, but we're talking about reality. And we do have it, and let's not kid ourselves. We would like to stamp it out, but we would like to get rid of the all-male clubs too, and we would like to have, mixed gender clubs. But in some cases, our all-male clubs are doing fantastic work. They're happy how they are. Their spouses are happy. They don't feel left out because they're included in all the projects. So again, going back to Brian, one size can't fit all. I think you have to do your best to have sessions with your members, even if there's no issue at the moment. Try and have the sessions before it arises. Bring in speakers who talk about sexuality, etc., and try and educate your members from now, so that you're equipped to deal with that at the time it comes up. But I know that some of our older members, who are some of our best members, have a hard time. They say you can't teach old dogs new tricks. So they have a hard time dealing with it, which is unfortunate, but it's a reality. So you're going to have to work with it. And if, as I say, it's just not going to work, then Brian, you're going to send them across to the other club where it may work. That's the sort of thing that we have to be flexible enough to do. Or you may spin off a satellite club which has younger members who really don't mind. And I'm very happy to have that person involved with them. That is also another solution. So I hope I've taken myself out of the hot seat now.
Yeah, sure.
Abe, I'll make a shot at it here.
Sure.
As things change, Rotary fights to stay relevant. And as we all look at our clubs, we realize some clubs have changed more than other clubs. When I gathered a focus group of younger folks, when I say younger, this was about 10 years ago, folks between the age of 22 and 35, and asked them, would you be put off if you walked into a room with people that highlight their hair like I do, platinum blonde? Their comment was, and I thought it was very good, I look at that as this is what they said, I look at your hair color and I look at a chance to get a great amount of wisdom. There's a lot of experience in this room, but I'm going to walk out of the room if I find it's not inclusive. Now, that isn't the culture everywhere, but in the tendency is now, if we want younger folks, they have come up in a different sort of environment. And if we want to do that, we have to do what Lyle was talking about. We have to try to create that safe space, that inclusive space, and help people realize the specialness of Rotary comes from our ability to talk together, whether we're in the tribal areas of of Pakistan, where they are very devout in certain areas, whether we're in a very, let's say, restrictive area of Africa, where if you come out as gay, you may be subject to extreme penalties, legal penalties. To areas in the US, for example, where it's extremely liberal. Rotary has a difficulty with this question because we try to be that safe place where all of us can discuss, but we realize we include people who are far right over on this side and far left over on that side. And the challenge for a president is to create that safe space, to create the culture of inclusion. It is not an easy job. It isn't done by dictating. That's my experience. You don't change someone's mind by telling them they're a dinosaur. So I think it's one of the most difficult things, and I am going to drop this on Brian for his words of wisdom about how do you create as a president that sort of culture where people enjoy hearing different points of view.
Okay, I think there's a hand up.
Yeah, Maria.
Hello, everyone. My name is Maria O'Brien. I'm from Rotary Club of Central Port of Spain in Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm recently been nominated as the DEI champion. And I actually do quite a lot of work in the DEI space in technology communities here in the Caribbean, both for Google and AnitaB.org with regards to women in tech. And I posted a question just now. It's actually something that I have challenges with myself, so I would love some advice on it, which is that my honest belief is that if a safe space isn't protected by either policies or some sort of practice that is enforced when the safe space is challenged, people will perceive that the space isn't really safe. You know, so then people stop coming forward, they stop seeing it as inclusive. You know, it's like, it's inclusive, but it's not really inclusive, right? And here in the Caribbean, we face a lot of challenges with traditions, with religious beliefs, all of these things. They're very, very big hurdles when it comes to stigma. I mean, I gave a mental health talk the other day, and even within a very inclusive group, you know, people felt safe enough to say, I do have problems aligning myself with this way of thinking. And I thought that was an accomplishment, that even within that space that they felt safe to say, I don't necessarily agree with all of this, right? And I think that's the goal, right? But when you're dealing with an entire club and not just, say, for example, the participants in a session, right? What are the tools that we can use, or any advice you might have for us, especially as I'm starting my journey as DEI champion, to enforce a safe space without, exactly as Mike was just saying, excluding anyone or shutting anyone down? You know, there must be a Rotary tips on how we can do that. That would be amazing. Thank you so much. That's my question. Don't go all at once.
I will offer one thing. We have a club, Lyle mentioned this, an all-male club. They raise lots of money. They have their style of doing things. They've helped set up a club that is a very inclusive club. It meets at a different time. Their club probably costs, including charity, for each member somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000 a year. Yet, when they admitted a gay member, the way it was done was a respected person brought that person in and said, I'd like you to meet so-and-so. And before they knew it, they realized, wow, this person's great. Oh, he's gay. And it was a non-issue for them. Now, I realize cultures are very different. That one was done personally by someone who was very well respected in the organization. Now, if I had been the gay person, I don't know if I would have liked going into a place that I wasn't sure was going to be inclusive.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
how they started the walk down the path with 55 people who generally might find themselves making a joke about that. They don't joke anymore. They've had that exposure, and now they're moving along that path.
This
I
seems
leave it to
like,
the,
sorry. No, please continue if anybody else has any suggestions. But this seems like a really good opportunity for training for the communities on how to handle this.
Yes, well, Grayson has a story to share. Maybe there are a lesson or a few lessons that we can probably pick from that. Grayson?
Hi, y'all can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Grayson Stedman Jr., incoming secretary and past president of Rotary Club of Dominica. So this is a secondhand story that has been passed on to me from an older member. My club is 40-something years old, it's approaching 50 years since it's been in existence. And about a year or 2 years after it was chartered, there were two new members that were inducted in the club. At the time, they were very young. Now, this was back in the 70s. So as you can imagine, it was a brand new Rotary Club. Majority of the members were much older, senior managerial persons. So when these two young men were brought into the club, several of the older members felt that, oh, they would bring down the club, they were playboys, etc. And some members of the club actually left as a result of that. Fast forward almost 50 years later, and those same two young men are now now the oldest serving Rotarians in our club. They've been in the club ever since, and they've both been in our club 40-something years. When I joined the club almost 15 years ago, they were the most senior members of the club. So despite the fact that when they joined, they were very young, and some members walked out because of them joining the club, here it is 40-something years later, and they are still there, and they're still very active in the club. So that's as an example of something that happened back 40-something years ago. We know here in the Caribbean that we have very conservative views among a lot of persons in the Caribbean, especially for older persons. And acceptance of persons of different sexual orientation will be slow to be adopted, but I think eventually we'll get there. I like the example that was given a while ago, that a respected person of the club brought in one person, and then through that you get to know the person, you really get to know what the person's contributions and values are, and that really opens the door for further inclusion into the club and further acceptance into what that person does in their private lives really doesn't affect what they can contribute to the club. So I just wanted to share that story, and maybe that can be taken as an example of what could a template of what could happen in the future.
Thanks for sharing that, Grayson. I think there's lessons to be learned there. We're very consistent with what the panelists have been sharing, but we got almost a real life example of how we can deal with it. Any comments from the panel on Grayson's experience before we move on to the next one?
I'll give you one brief thing. Grayson, you reminded me when women were admitted into the club, 1987, that's when I joined. I joined right before that happened. I did not want to join, but my boss told me to join. And the interesting thing that I've learned since then was our largest club here in Jacksonville, very conservative, had no problems with it. The board immediately saw this was a change. They found the most qualified woman in the community, asked her to become a member of Rotary. She came in and there was no question because the board had taken action. Now, that was a seminal event when something caused the board to have to take action and to unify. The other clubs in our area had all sorts of problems, and some didn't admit women for 10 to 20 years. That was a very well handled event, and that woman then became the nucleus of bringing a number of good women in. But it showed everyone there are extremely competent people in this classification, if you want to make it that way, of people. We want them in our club. That got that question off the table. Then they moved forward. The other clubs didn't do it nearly as well, and it took them 10 to 20 years to finally cope with that.
Very interesting. So just whilst on the topic of membership still, there's an interesting comment that came through. I hope I got the translation. I hope I did justice to the translation, but I'll read the gist of it. And someone posted here, in order to increase the attraction of our club, and I think this may be just a translation issue, but it is saying here, in order to attract more people to our club, is it okay to organize maybe a meeting once a month? Modest participation and cost, no major obligation on the part of whoever is attending, in a sort of an after-work spirit, but focused on getting persons who can identify with our shared values and who can participate in our actions without actually becoming Rotarians. And the objective here is to expand the club's network that can be beneficial to members as well as the club. This is from one of the French clubs, but interesting comment and maybe interesting question. Panelists, your thoughts on this?
Well, if we're going to take it from the top again, but yeah, I mean, I think that's a great idea. You know, some of those people may become Rotarians, but we work now extensively with partners, and that's what Rotary is trying to get us to do, to realize we can't do it all. We're the leaders. Rotary prides itself in leadership. So if we can round up a bunch of like-minded people and help lead them into service, I mean, we are achieving our aims. And having done that, we extend our reach, as they say. We can increase our impact. And guess what? The engagement of the members who are involved will be even greater. So I'm all for it. I think that's a fantastic idea.
Mike, have you had any clubs in your district practice this? And to what extent have they seen any success?
Well, it was interesting. I thought that the conversation was going toward pulling people together to let them learn about Rotary and then help them make an informed decision about whether to join Rotary. But it sounds like it also, if I caught it right, Abe, talked about taking it further and involving them in Rotary.
Yes.
And it essentially creating what Rotary is called a community core. People who are tied in with Rotary, and there is such a thing as a community core used in some districts, not many in our zone, but where they've got a major project. For example, there was one that was working on peace in a really war-torn area. They had a community core that came in and helped facilitate a number of things that were important to the community. They weren't all Rotarians, but the Rotarians served as the kind of conveners and facilitators to make that happen. Certainly, it's a good idea. I was getting ready to send the link to a webinar, that 45-minute webinars that we hold with Membership Action Plan, where there's 25 minutes of content and normally a successful leader saying, here's how we do it in my club. I'm going to go ahead and send that in the chat. It's called Connect with Prospects, and it will show you how they pull people together and start talking about Rotary in a very relaxed way, so that, and they do it about once a month, so people can come in, learn what Rotary is, and decide, do I want to be involved? They can certainly add something about, do you want to be involved when we do a project on X? But it's a similar type thing. I'm going to put that in chat here as quick as I type it out.
Thanks for that, Mike. Maria has posted another question here. How can we perhaps have inclusion for members with chronic illness patients in the community when it comes to meeting requirements? So another dimension to DEI, but
Only speaking as well, because I'm also a cancer patient, and I know that as COVID, restrictions have rolled back, people have gone back into the in-person meetings. And while I love learning all of the Rotary ways, I do wonder if for patients who have more demanding treatments, what is it like for them to keep up with the requirements of meeting attendance? Yeah.
thanks for sharing that, Maria. All right. I think we have exhausted the questions that were posted from Tuesday. So we have a few minutes where I think we can extend an invitation to anyone who wants to share or ask any questions on membership. Now, this is a forum where usually when your president elects and secretary elects, when you attend PETS, you don't get this kind of focused one-on-one responses. So please take advantage of the wisdom that exists in this forum to pose your questions. I'm sure it's going to benefit everyone in addition to yourself. So we have a few minutes where I think we can open up the mics. And if you have any specific questions relating to membership, if you can, you have the opportunity now to air those questions. So please feel free.
If I may,
DG.
I just thought I should mention that we have with us, although he's not on the panel, past District Governor David Edwards, who was vice chair of the membership committee of Rotary International on membership. So it doesn't get higher than that. And, I think we've all benefited from David's wisdom from time to time. And I think, he's occupied the highest levels of expertise, Rotary expertise on membership. And I think it would be a shame not to hear from David. So David, it would be an honor for all of us, I'm sure, to hear your thoughts.
You're putting me on the spot, DGE. Good afternoon, also good evening. Yeah, I've been listening, and I don't necessarily agree with everything I heard. One of the overall things I'd say up front is that as all of people out there, we're okay. I'm getting a lot of feedback in French. Yeah. Anyway, we'll press on. They'll probably start that. Yeah, I was saying the one thing we have to remember though in all of these questions is that we Rotary cannot be everything for everybody. There are many questions, that we saw even just now. Each club has to do what it needs to do if it has a member with a particular problem. That's a club problem. Rotary, when you say what is Rotary doing about that, Rotary can't do anything about that. we have to be realistic. We can't make a rule that suits every club in every part of the world, because as Mike quite rightly said, because of the religious and other considerations in other places, we can't make overarching policy that answers the question of everything. So if like Maria, if you have a problem with someone who has cancer, that's an individual problem that a club can solve. And there are clubs in our district that have over time had sick patients where the club goes to the house and hold a meeting every now and then as well. So, you know, there are ways to get around that, but that's not something our Rotary can solve. Using the word Rotary as the overarching. And the satellite club is a good outlet. Now, I must upfront say I don't agree that the satellite club is the answer to everything. It's a good outlet as described this afternoon. I totally agree. There are others that I don't agree with, but as described this evening, yes, I certainly do agree with that. It's a good outlet. But again, and I don't want to be the purveyor of bad news, but we have to be realistic. Rotary is not meant to be a cheap solution to everybody's problem. It is not. If we are supposed to be leaders and carry out projects at a certain level, it can't be done without some form of both discipline and funding. And you don't get that by, as people will say, being the mom and pop shop. There are others who have failed in that sphere over time. Businesses fail doing that as well. So we have to be careful where we picture ourselves. Do we want to picture ourselves at a level below what we have reached? Or do we want to pitch the level and at least maintain where we are, or go up but not down? So that's why I say I agree. The satellite club is a good extension where we have certain jurisdictions that have problems with financing and so. Yes, that's a good solution. In fact, an excellent solution. But to form a satellite club just to form another club, I don't agree with that at all. That's not a solution as far as I'm concerned. The community core, and by the way, my community core started right here in 1730, empowerment in Trinidad. So hands for that. That started here, and that was really what the name suggests: a community core where the Rotarians were mentors to the community. So it chose community leaders, and the Rotarians mentored those leaders. So that really was the thrust of community core, which has not taken off worldwide as good as we would have hoped, but it has worked well in many jurisdictions that need it. So everything to suit the jurisdiction you're in. As it relates to information on, and what I'm saying about the not trying to cheapen ourselves, there's a lot of data that's been collected over the years. There's a tremendous amount of data that will show us that even in the places where we have tried that model of almost bending over backwards to help people in finance and cheapen, it has not resulted in any expansion in Rotary. In fact, it actually has shown a decrease overall over time. So we have to be careful if we, and I'm using the word widely, cheapen ourselves in our policies. And as for the inclusion part, I say I like to put it as if we're inviting people to our home. What would you do? Are you accommodating to people you invite to your home or that are coming as friends? I think we should treat Rotary the same way. Really, I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but all of us have friends who have all different types of orientation, religious beliefs, and so on. But certainly, there is some time that we can have a highway in between there where we can agree and do things in common. And for years, for generations, we have lived in societies where there are certain religious groups who do not partake in anything on a Saturday. We know that. So when you hold something on a Saturday, they tell you, well, sorry, you know, I'm not on that project, but I will work on, I may be doing a project on the Sunday. Then another group might say, well, they're not available on Sunday. And we've worked through that over the years without problems. And I think some of these spaces that we are trying to build, I think we might be overemphasizing too much. I think we should just go on as normal business people do and friends do among others, and include everyone. The LGBTQ problem is there, it is true, but I also know that we talk of examples of a particular problem, but I know of many clubs that are inclusive and have no problem. Absolutely none. So I think it's more individual than global, the problem. And Mike quite rightly said there are jurisdictions where that is a problem because of the culture and the custom. And that's a difficult one for anybody to solve, including some governments. As you will see, some governments, they refuse to put persons in, allow them to run for elections and that type of thing. So we can't solve those problems in Rotary, but we can certainly work through them. And Rotary sometimes actually can show them that it can work because it happens in Rotary clubs. So generally, I think the opportunity this afternoon for President and Secretary-elect has been wonderful to hear from PDG Lyle and PDG Mike or coordinator and DGE. So I hope you come to Grenada next week. Well fortified in your resolve to accept as President and Secretary-elect when that opportunity officially pass next. Was it Wednesday? Next Wednesday is next or Thursday? Next Thursday afternoon when you press on as President-elect and Secretary-elect. So good luck to all, and that's just my 5 cents after being put on the spot.
As you almost made it to $1 there, PDG Dave. Very well. I mean, wisdom shared, some nuggets in between there. So well done. Right. So we're about a time now where I know there's a second component. DG Brian, did you want to wrap up this part of the question answer session on membership with any final thoughts on
Not
membership?
necessarily. Thanks for
Okay.
thanks for the opportunity, but I think PDG David did an excellent job of summarizing.
Yes.
And please go ahead.
In fact, the entire panel, fantastic job, just continuing from Tuesday until today. Wish we could have more of you guys. I'm sure we're gonna have at least some of you at PETS. So the next segment of this evening's session is a carryover from one of the previous sessions where we sort of ran out of time so that President-elects, Secretary-elects can get a hands-on feel for actually uploading goals in Rotary Club Central. So this is where we're going to go off in our respective breakout rooms, and I think the rooms have been designed such that it's a mix of representatives of various clubs. So if we can head over to your respective rooms, I think the rooms are open and they're numbered from 1 till 6. So I hope the discussions in the breakout rooms were pretty fruitful. I was able to hop across a couple of them, and yes, I knew there were some live demonstrations taking place, experiences shared, so that was pretty good. I think it was useful. So this is a smiling time again, and I know Emeritus, you're all set this time around. Let's get those photos. Second photo moment. So let's get those
Cameras on.
shots going. Yes. So let's
Yes,
go.
please. Thank you kindly. All right, so let me see the smiling faces. Let Leah know we had fun in her absence. All right, 1 second. I'll tell you when to stop smiling. Don't worry if your face hurts, it'll be worth it. All right, thank you very much.
Wonderful. Fantastic job, Emeritus, for the entire virtual set of sessions. I know you got everyone on camera, on time. So thanks very much for your service there.
No problem. Very welcome.
So the next item you have here, I think is this has brought us to the end of the training components of virtual pets. I trust it was a wonderful learning opportunity for President-elect, Secretary-elects. So this is your time just to share just some quick feedback, maybe for a few minutes before we wrap up, on your overall thoughts on, your pet's experience virtual. This is just the run up to in-person pets, but I'm sure you got a lot of information that you usually would not get, I would say so intimately when you do the in-person. So wonderful sessions that were held. We spoke about budgeting. We started off with budgeting, planning service projects. Quite a lot of useful information was shared on district grants, Rotary Club Central, Club Runner, and then last week, membership on DEI. And based on the discussions, I can only conclude that that information was well appreciated. So it's your turn to just share with us in open forum your overall thoughts on the information that was shared for this aspect or this component of PETS 2023. So I'm just going to open up your mic and take some random feedback. Of course, all feedback, it's appreciated. That's what's going to help us get better in PETS to come. So the mic is open for a few minutes. We can take some random feedback. So please do. Everyone don't have to go all at once, but President-elect, Secretary-elect, your feedback.
If you have to volunteer someone.
It looks like that. President-elect, Secretary-elect. I'm going to go in alphabetical order. Anisha, I think this is Tobago. Yes.
Yes, always happens to me. It happens to me at classes. It happens to me.
That's because your
Yes,
first name is A.
But for me, well, I would be I am Secretary-elect. This is the first for me. I have been with my club since 2019. Well, fairly young still, but I really appreciated the sessions. Thankfully, I was here for all of them. I did learn a lot. And in terms of, from my present secretary, who is Marie Davis, I know she has done a pretty good job in terms of handling the affairs of the club, and I know I have some shoes to fill. Well, I can create my own path as well, and I plan, from what I have learned here, from the I think it was 6 sessions, it has been instrumental for me moving forward in terms of doing a pretty good job for my club moving forward. So thank you very much for the information.
Wonderful. Okay. So let's hear from one of the clubs in Martinique, Karen Joseph. Karen, are you on?
So while we're waiting on Karen, if I can just share that
Sure.
I appreciated the teach and application aspects of PETS. So the Tuesday sessions where, you know, we were introduced, or it was more of a teaching type of thing. And then on Thursday allowed us to go to delve deeper, ask any of those burning questions that we had, and then also apply some of what we learned. So I really appreciate the time and the thoughtfulness that was put into pulling it all together. Thank you.
Wonderful. Great. Karen, are you on?
Yes, I am on. Sorry.
Go ahead.
So I really appreciate all the information that you really share with us, and I learn a lot. So that's
Great.
it.
Wonderful. So let's mix it up a little bit. Let's take a G. Grayson.
Okay, so it's not new to me. As past president, during the COVID, we had, I think it might have been the district's first virtual conference. So we had a similar type of arrangement where we had online pet sessions, and then the conference itself was mostly virtual. But the sessions were very informative. Again, as was recently said, all the topics were shown on the Tuesdays, and then on the Thursdays, we had the opportunity to discuss them further, as well as to have some hands-on with that. I think that was very beneficial. I think that would go a long way for allowing people to remember the material, etc.
Wonderful.
For me personally, nothing new, done it before, so I'm pretty familiar with most of those aspects, but I think it was very informative and very helpful for all the members here.
Right, wonderful. Let's bring on St. Lucia. June. What?
Good evening.
Yes. Yes.
Hi, thanks for me. Good evening, all. Well, first of all, it's my second time around. I've been re-elected as secretary for the second time around. So I can make a comparison, but I don't want to make a comparison between the last one and this one. This one reiterated some of the things that I learned at the first PED session in Barbados. Specifically, especially since concerning the MAP, the Membership Action Plan, which I found is extremely useful, because in listening to the conversations and members sharing their experiences, it seems that we all experience the same thing concerning retaining members in our clubs. And this, I figure, is one of the biggest challenges that a lot of clubs are facing. So we have already started, me together with the president, on working on our energizing our membership action plan. But it's all in all, it was a wonderful session.
Fantastic. All right, great. Thanks for that feedback. Let's bring Dominic in. Marianne.
I have been in pet sessions now for the last couple of years.
Okay.
As secretary-elect, now next year I will be vice president.
Okay.
So just repeating information, but that's good, and we really have to do it together as a club.
Okay.
So I was really glad a lot of us could participate.
Good, great, wonderful. And let's get St. Vincent. Feedback from St. Vincent is Mikasha.
Hi, good evening, everyone. In terms of feedback, unfortunately, I was not able to make some of the sessions because I was in a plane at the time that they were on, but I have attended a couple of them, and the ones that I've attended, like, I really can't fault what's being done. I think they're quite informative. Some of it I know already, but it's good to kind of refresh and to get maybe a different perspectives and more depth. And obviously every year things change in Rotary, you know, there are always tweaks. So happy to hear about those things as well. And I think the breakout sessions are really good as well. So I like that Tuesday, Thursday split like you do in university, you go to your lecture and then, you go to a tutorial session. I think that that model works quite nicely. So thank you all very, very much for all the hard work you've done and pulling this together. I really appreciate it.
Okay, wonderful. All feedback duly noted. I know we would have liked to hear from everyone. Unfortunately, time doesn't allow us, but whatever was said, I hope that it presents a very good representation of the feedback that the group, coming from the group. And the training team will take your feedback, into consideration of planning training during the Rotary year and, for future, virtual PETS events also. So we have a few minutes remaining before we do want to finish by the stipulated time. So let's ask Marconim for announcements, reminders, and taking us into Grenada. Marconim? Marconim, if he's not on, then Annette?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
And
Right.
fill in and pull up that rear end there.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so fellow Rotarians, today was actually our last online training session. It has been a wonderful journey and great work based on everything that everyone has said, great feedback. However, the recordings and all material are available via the PETS 2023 event on the District 7030 website calendar. There will be, not all over as yet, there will be an in-person session on Thursday the 13th in Grenada from 1 to 4 p.m. And at this session, at least we'll be able to, network and fellowship and bring everything that we've learned, we'll be able to now pull together in that session. So we look forward to seeing you all there. For those persons who cannot be in Grenada, there will be a Zoom link and that will be shared in due course. Persons traveling to Grenada, please, like me, I haven't done it as yet, fill out your form, your arrival form, so that the conference team can meet you, welcome you, and pick you up. The complete training by role. Oh, please go. This is what it is, really and truly. Go onto My Rotary and go onto the Learning Center and learn and go onto the roles, the courses that are available to you free, and learn for your various roles in your clubs. Please take advantage and thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Annette, for stepping in there. And finally, as we wrap up proceedings for Virtual PETS 2023, let me bring on DG Brian for his closing remarks and send us off to Grenada. DG Brian.
Thank you, Abby, for a wonderful job of coordinating not only this evening's sessions, but the previous sessions that you have coordinated. Thanks to you and the remarkable training team. The next training team led by Leah and the present training team led by Liz. This team has done a remarkable job. And of course, we must not forget the translation services, because without the translation services, those of us who don't speak French too well would not have been able to participate fully. So to you remarkable translators, thanks for helping us to keep together and to understand what each other was saying. Now, training or any form of Rotary education is an ongoing process. Even our experienced Rotarians like past district governors Lyle, Mike, and David, I'm sure each of them would agree that they learn something about Rotary, if not every day, certainly every week. it's an ongoing process. Rotary is a dynamic organization, and training is an essential part of helping us to remain focused and helping us to remain and continue to be good Rotarians. As Annette mentioned, the journey continues into Grenada. 110 of us will be there in person, which is incredible. 110 presidents and secretaries will be there in person. That is a great achievement. And for the few who can't be there, as Annette again mentioned, please attend by Zoom. So everyone who has made these training sessions the success that I hope they were, and I believe they were, thank you. We would appreciate feedback, and we do appreciate feedback. If there are any negatives, please let us know as well, so that we can learn. It's a learning process. So if there's anything that you think we can improve on, drop it into the chat, drop an email to Leah, myself, Abe, any of us, so that next time we do training, we will even be better than this time. So again, thanks for participating. Thanks for accompanying us on this remarkable journey that we've just finished of pets, and look forward to the grand finale in Grenada on Thursday of next week. So enjoy your weekend. Those of you who observe Easter, do so safely. And those of you who don't, still have a great weekend. All the best to everyone.
Thank you, DG. Our session is now adjourned, and see you all in Grenada next week.